Good evening, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar, Raising Emotionally Resilient Children in Uncertain Times. Thank you for taking time to be with us. I'm Gaddafi from Nuffield Academy. We at Nuffield Academy deliver high-quality continuing professional education courses and content for dental surgeons and dental support staff. Today, we are partnering with Nuffield Wellness to bring you this webinar. Nuffield Wellness is a holistic wellness center that focuses on natural healing and medicine to help alleviate symptoms of chronic ailments. It comprises of an aesthetic medispa, Ayurveda clinic, and counseling center that deliver treatments and services that seek to empower and inspire and achieve physical, mental, and emotional well-being. Zahira Masauood, our guest speaker today, is a principal counselor at Nuffield Counselling. She has a master's degree in professional counseling and works with adults, adolescents, couples, and families on a broad range of mental health conditions such as stress, anxiety, depression, and bipolar disorder. Without further ado, Ms. Zahira.
Thank you, Gaddafi. A very good evening to everyone. Thank you for joining me here today in another webinar on the parenting series, Raising Emotionally Resilient Children in Uncertain Times. I'm Zahira, Principal Counselor with Nuffield Counselling. Before we start, just a little background about me. I was previously a school counselor and a therapist specializing in cognitive behavioral therapy and had worked with parents and students of all ages. Also, towards the end of this webinar, just to give you a little heads up, there will be a segment for question and answer where I'll be answering any questions pertaining to the webinar topic today. Meanwhile, while the webinar is going on, you can also post your questions in the chat box, but I will be answering them towards the end of the session. Okay, so let's begin. Today's content, the topics that I'll be covering today would be what is resilience, how to be a supportive role model in your child's life, tips to teach children to manage their emotions through problem-solving strategies to cope with stress and challenges. I'm sure all of you have heard this over time and time again about the uncertainty of what is going on around the world. All of us are facing some sort of challenges, regardless of age or gender, or we have survived through some sort of the toughest situations, right? But what about those who find it difficult to adapt to these changes? And the upcoming challenges, especially not forgetting our children who are going through the same. Have you ever wondered, how they are processing all these? So what I really want to talk about today is how to really support children and promote resiliency. I feel this is something we as parents or caregivers, we are the first line of support for that change and to help them in these moments of uncertainty. So this webinar today is meant as a guide and to share some of the strategies on how we can promote resiliency in our children. I know it is every parent's dream that our children don't have to go through any kind of adversity. They go through life happy, healthy, free of pain, free of worries. We would love to have all that for our children, that they don't have to face bullies in schools or divorces, injuries, poverty, crime. However, we all live in a less than perfect world today, and life is going to throw us curveballs that involves ups and downs and challenges, stresses, you name it, right? So it's understandable as parents, we want to protect our children from these challenges, that we could always be there to save them, be their savior and save them from that disappointment and stress. But if we continuously do that, how would how would they ever experience the satisfaction of facing challenges or even bounce back from facing a struggle or failure or even rejection? Okay, how can they actually appreciate good fortune if they have never known the opposite, or even develop some sort of empathy for others if they've never known what it's like to struggle themselves. Of course, no parents wishes for any of this adversity to happen to our children. However, it is inevitable and it's only realistic to expect problems from time to time. So the objective of today's webinar would be, aiming to raise children who are resilient, children who can handle life curveballs when they are thrown at them, children who can cope with life challenges and bounce back and find happiness even when things don't go their way. Okay, so what is resilience, right? So resilience is about, many of us know it's about, handling the toughest of situations, or perhaps getting over an adverse situation that may have impacted us in such a way that it either make us or break us, right? Sounds too familiar, isn't it? Resilience is the capacity to rise above that difficult situations or circumstance, the trait or attitude that allows us to move forward in those adversities with positivity, with confidence and optimism, to face those struggles. So yes, life is full of challenges, setbacks, disappointment, loss, hardships. Resilience is one of the most important life skill any one of us can develop. You might even say that we all being tested from the time we are born, right? So whether we pass or fail those tests depends on a large part how we are nurtured in childhood. As for children, they are naturally resilient. The earlier they begin to practice how to work through these struggles and the challenges, the better they are equipped. They'll be able to bounce back from any difficult situations in their life. As parents and caregivers, there are many resources out there to guide you through raising a resilient child. So keep reading for more information so that you can gain, the knowledge to support them through this process. A resilient child is able to handle uncertainty, problem solve, and even make decisions with confidence. Okay, so a lot of parents do ask me this: what is the connection of adversity and building resilience? As we all know, adversity is something that's defined as going through something unpleasant, a hardship or a struggle, or something negative that affects us in the way we respond to it, and can also act as a precursor on how to build resilience. Although some adversities clearly pose as a greater risk to a child's development and mental health, the severity of adversity in a child's life depends on context. So it depends from situation to situations. Different children have different experiences of adversity, how they process it. It depends on the environment they are in. For example, a child who is raised by supportive families or relationships may not experience adversity as negatively as a child who is raised in lack of protective relationship. So for example, a child who is raised by a grandparent will react to the passing of the grandparent adversely because the grandparent had been the source of support in absence of other protective relationship or in his or her life. Unlike a child who's raised in an environment where the father or mother or both have been a protective figure, the child will not see the passing of the grandparent as a serious hardship. So you get what I'm trying to say here. So a child's experience of or reaction to adversity is definitely influenced by a range of factors, including those within the environment, the individual's child coping skills, self-regulation, self-confidence, social skills, etc. Okay, I feel like interactions between the child and the environment over the time also can change depending on, whether they've gone through any kind of traumatic experiences. Okay, for this reason, even, in the same household, sometimes, children who are raised by the same protective figures might experience adversity in a different way. So maybe the elder sibling would experience adversity differently than the youngest child in the family. So therefore, rather than making a clear distinction between what is and what is not adversity, in this webinar, we are viewing adversity in a broader spectrum. The severity of adversity depends on the environment within which it is occurring, and the perceived and subjective experience of the adversity by the child. Finally, please note that this adversity is not the same as trauma. Although traumatic events may be considered adversities, not all adversities can be traumatic for the child. In some circumstances, trauma will affect how a child responds to resilience initiatives. For example, for children who have experienced strong, frequent, prolonged trauma, the resulting toxic stress can have a detrimental impact on their development, thereby their ability to learn new skills, whether it's coping skills or healthy thinking habits will be affected. Okay, so characteristics of resilient children. First of all, I think it's important to discuss this. Let's review some of the traits that are common among resilient children. Okay, resilient children has developed a special ability to handle or solve different kinds of problems when faced with an obstacle. They're solution oriented. They have the ability to calm their thoughts and emotions without losing their cool. They are able to think carefully, choosing the solutions that fits best for them. Okay, so if they do not get it right the first time, they do not let themselves overcome with negativity. They reflect upon it, and once more they try to make considered considerable kind of decisions to see what is good for them and what's not. So this ability makes them confront any kind of adverse situation with a healthy and positive attitude. Okay, the next one would be they practice emotional intelligence. They are children who have learned to recognize, accept, name, and express their emotions. They allow themselves to have greater emotional control, especially when it comes to negative emotions such as anger, panic. A resilient child or teenager is not afraid to express their emotions because they have been raised in a context of there's acceptance and respect on their emotions. They're aware of them. They know their emotions are a part of themselves, and they can't lose control. They can't go beyond what they are going through. So they are empathetic. When you raise a resilient child, you're helping them to develop empathy, not only towards people, it's towards everything around them. They're able to put themselves in another person's shoes and understand where they're coming from. They have good positive self-esteem. Some parents ask me if self-esteem can turn into pride or arrogance. In this case, yes, it can, of course, but resilient children are aware of their capabilities. Our role as parents in these cases is to remind them that humility is a virtue and they should not allow their self-esteem to end up running over others. In addition, they learn not to let themselves get carried away by this arrogance of believing that the problem is just too easy for them to handle. Okay, so trial and error are the best teachers for a resilient child. Okay, so the next one would be they show good sense of humor. This is very common in resilient children. They are very pleasant to deal with and have a healthy sense of humor. They can face even the most difficult situation with a smile or a joking remark, and that takes away the tension out of that moment. This is not because they do not take the situation seriously or underestimate the seriousness of the problem. This attitude stems from their emotional control. In many cases, I feel that it stems from their connection with faith. So they tend to seek to cheer other people up who are going through a bad time. Okay, and the other trait I would say is they know their creative potential, having the freedom to solve, make decisions, and think increases their creative potential. This ability is not restricted to imagination. It includes generating creative and original solution for complex situations. A difficult circumstances in the hands of a resilient child can be transformed into something beautiful and useful. And of course, they are optimistic. I'm not talking about delusional optimism, but optimism focused on reality and not on the, and on the growth mindset in the face of a setback. In general, their understanding of the world and life is positive because they know their resources and their capabilities. Okay, so the good news is that resilient skills can be learned. Developing resilience is definitely a personal journey. Every parent or supportive figures can use their knowledge of their personal relationships with their child to guide them in the right direction towards reaching their optimal potential in developing their own resilience. Like I said, every children is different, so there's no one size fits all. Okay, well, I know this is it's parents who ask me these questions quite a lot. How does adversity have a connection in building resilience, right? So give me a second. Let me see if I had missed out a slide. Okay. Okay, sorry about that. How does resilient affect? I think I missed it. I missed it out somewhere. How does resilient affect behavior in children? Okay. Well, some parents do notice that it's really hard when a child throw a tantrum. This is just because they are trying to process something. Children have different levels of resilience that affects them in different ways of responding to adversity or recovering from something that is stressful to them. They will respond differently to challenges or demands that test their ability to capacity to cope. They can show different emotions such as withdrawal, resentment, anger, or acting out during these moments. Even those who are able to cope will have days where they might feel overwhelmed with emotions. Of course, low resilience can trigger certain patterns of behavior more than often. During times of stress when facing adversity, the body goes through different stages that are designed to make us stronger, faster, more alert and more capable versions of ourselves. So what happens here is that the heart rates, the blood pressure goes up, and there's the adrenaline and the cortisol surge through the body. But remember, this is short term, okay? The stress response that is initiated by the amygdala the central part of the brain that is responsible for instinct or impulses responses. These are messages that are delivered to the brain where it releases a chemical cocktail to help the body deal with stress. Like I said, this is short term. So if prolonged, this can also weaken their immune system, their body and their brain. That's why you notice, some students fall sick quite often during exam times because of the stress. Stress cause the prefrontal cortex of the brain, which acts as a tower of the brain, to temporarily shut down, which affects the ability to problem solve, impulse control, attention, and regulation of emotions. In this case, resilience is connected to the capacity to activate the prefrontal cortex and calm the amygdala. When this happens, the physiological changes activated by stress will start to reverse, extending the ability to recover from, adapt, or find solution to the stress or challenges. Okay, so I hope I did not miss out the slides again here. Okay, so how to be a responsive role model in your child's life. Okay, for the how to promote that resiliency, believe it or not, it begins with us as parents and supportive figures in their lives. We can help guide them. Raising healthy, thriving children isn't about clearing adversity out of their way. Remember, failures can be an opportunity for growth. Facing adversity can help them develop skills that they need to flourish, strengthening them towards healthier ways of coping and living by nurturing and instilling positive coping behavior to deal with that adversity. So here's how you can help to be that supportive role model in your child's life. Okay. So as parents, as supportive figures, it is our responsibility. Okay, first and foremost, definitely our responsibility to teach our children resiliency in adversity. A child who can cope with small challenges will be better prepared for future significant challenges in life should they ever arise. Children are like sponges. They watch and learn everything from us. Their habits, characteristics, and even the way they cope and are able to respond to certain things come from a level of influence at home or connection that play a supportive role in building the resilience. This is what we call protective figures that influence the child's behavior. So as a parent, it is especially important to learn how to handle stress in a healthy manner. Because remember, they're always watching. And it is our responsibility to set an example on how to handle stress in a healthy way. So the first one would be model resilience. Imitation is a powerful way to learn. Children will want to be just like you. They watch and hear everything you do. When you're faced with challenges, show them that what resilience can look like by bringing them into your emotional world at appropriate times, of course. And this will help them see sadness, stuckness, and disappointment are a part of human experience. When these experiences are normalized, there would be, some sort of safety and security that will open up the path for exploration on what those experiences meant for them and think different ways to respond to them. So one example would be, I'll just give you a case scenario, okay, of a parent who's not getting a promotion in the at work. This is how you can model resilience to them. You can say things like, oh, I'm disappointed, I didn't get that promotion, but because it is important to me. It is nice to get what you want because it is important to you. What is really important too was that I know that I did my very best in my job and I'm okay with that. Probably that wasn't a promotion for me, but I know that it's going to be the next round that is meant for me and it will be at my perfect timing. I have to keep doing my best in what I do and be patient. And I'm sure I'll get that promotion soon. You know, by saying things like this, you are able to model resilience to them and show them, you know, it is okay when things don't go their way, but to look at it in a more optimistic point of view. Okay, so the next one would be loving and nurturing relationships. Research shows the presence of at least one supportive relationship in a child's life can help children have the opportunity to develop vital coping skills during times of distress. And what I meant here is that a loving relationship with a caring and nurturing adult will help them respond in a positive manner. The presence of a grounded, responsive adult, whether you as parents, family, caregivers, teachers, coaches, anyone that has a good influence in the child's life can also help reverse the psychological changes that are activated by stress. These will ensure that that the developing brain, body, and immune system are protected from the negative effect that these changes does to them. Okay, so the next one would be make to give them positive reinforcement. You know, supportive relationship have higher levels of positive emotions, giving them positive reinforcements, you know, it create some sort of optimism, give them a sense of personal control, you know, gives them some sense of motivation and self-esteem. Children will not notice people around them who are cheering them on. So it's important to let them know there are figures that care about them. For example, you can tell them, I told grandma how brave you were today and she is so proud of you. You know, just this type of statements, you know, you can build your self-esteem. Anything you can do to build that connection with people who love them will strengthen them. Okay, and lastly, I would say let them know it's okay not to be okay and it's okay to ask for help. Children often feel that they need to deal with problems themselves, and that this is the only way for them to show their bravery. Let them know that you are there for them, and being brave and strong means knowing that it is also okay not to be okay on some days, and for them to ask for help, guide them towards what they can do themselves, but resist solving it for them. It is important to remind them that you are there just to support them through that process. Okay, so the next one I would say would be this. I'm sure you all are waiting for this. This is an extension to your supportive role in their lives. These are some of the strategies to build resilience by managing their emotions through problem solving to cope with stress and challenges. Okay, so the first one I would say is self-regulating skills. These are essential skills we all use to, you know, day-to-day planning, organizing, make decisions, learn from past mistakes. Kids rely on their executive functions for everything from taking a shower to packing their school bags or doing their homework. You know, strengthening their executive functioning will strengthen their prefrontal cortex that what it does is that it helps them manage their own behavior and feelings and increase their capacity to develop coping strategies. Some helpful ways would be establishing some sort of routine, modeling healthy social behavior, creating and maintaining supportive, reliable relationships, providing opportunities for own social connections, creative play, board games, anything that can help them through these self-regulating skills. Okay, the other one I would say encourage self-care. You know, what it does is that mindfulness or self-care, as we call it, rewires your brain functioning towards a healthier response to stress. It strengthens the calming and rational prefrontal cortex and reduces the activity in the instinctive, impulsive amygdala. This will help them to navigate through stressful situations in a calm and functional way. For any parents who are interested in doing any kind of fun or mindfulness activity with your children, you can email me for more resources on this. Okay, I'll be happy to answer them. Okay, the other one I would say is build feelings of competency and a sense of mastery. What I mean is that you can nurture these feelings in them, the one that reminds them that they can do hard things. You will reinforce this every time you acknowledge their strength, the brave things they do, and their effort when they are doing something difficult on their own. This means you could also encourage them to make their own decisions when they have a sense of mastery or ability to handle those situations on their own. I feel like they're less likely to be reactive to future stress and more likely to be able to handle challenges in the future. For example, you can say things like, you are amazing for trying hard things. You've got this, baby. You can do this. You keep going and you will get there. You know, just positive reinforcement always. Okay. So the other one I would say nurtures that optimism in them. Um, uh, this one is the key characteristic in resilient people. The brain can be rewired to be more optimistic through the experiences it's exposed to. Children tend to look at the glass being half empty. So show them a different view, the glass half full instead of the glass half empty. This does not mean invalidating how they feel. Acknowledge their view of the world and introduce them to different ones. For example, if it's a rainy day and you have planned out an outing with them and you know you are unable to do that, you can say things like, it is a, you know, um, it is disappointing when it rains on the weekend, isn't it? I'm sorry we can't go out today. What is something that we can do on a rainy day that we probably won't do if it's a sunny day? The idea is to focus on what is left rather than what is lost. Okay, so I would say the next one would be making time for creativity and play. In connection to nurturing the optimism part, problem solving requires a creative process. Anything that strengthens their problem solving skills will nurture their resilience, give them space and time to play and get creative. You will be surprised, you know, by the things that they can come up with. Okay, so the next one would be teach them how to reframe their thoughts. This will help them focus on what they have rather than what they have lost. To build these skills, validate their feelings towards disappointments and slowly transiting to what the problem has caused them, towards the opportunities that it may bring them. Let them involve in the process of reframing. Um, you can say things like, I understand, I understand how disappointed you are that it's raining outside. I would be disappointed too if I were you. But there are things that we can do while it's raining, something that we might not have done otherwise. If they show really so much disappointment in their face, then they might need guidance on this situation. So you can suggest or present alternative ideas such as reading a book together or watching a movie, anything that you can do in the house, whether it's baking or cooking, that can be interesting to them. Okay, be open to their ideas too. Because sometimes it can be ridiculous, but be open to it and let them push through the norms and come up with something that's uniquely theirs. These will promote growth mindset and creative thinking. Okay, it's a continuation of the strategies. So the other one I would say is face fear with support. Children who have opportunities to build their confidence and learn how to deal with obstacles, success, failures, whether they undertake personal challenges. Facing fear is so empowering, but to do this, they need the right support too. Children can be black and white sometimes about things when they are faced with something difficult, and the choices can only be two. Okay, so it's either fight or flight. In other words, whether to face it head on or to avoid it at all costs. But as supportive figures, we can also teach them to move gradually towards it, while being supported with a certain amount of control from your side. The other one would be encourage them to take safe, considered risks. I know this might sound a little bit harsh, but then again, resist. Please try to resist at all costs, okay? The temptation to intervene and take care of their problems for them. Even when you know that the outcome of what your child is struggling with won't go in the direction you would want, or that it would be distressing for them as well. Part of building resilience is about how we handle and go through difficult experiences. It is something that each and every one of us has to learn on our own. Remember to always use that positive reinforcement and let them know that the courage they show in doing something brave and difficult is more important than the outcome. So depending on the age, certain freedom allows them to learn within their limitations. Encourage them to think about what their decisions are, and teach them that they can cope when things don't go according to their expectations. When they explore and take risks, they start creating an opportunity for growth and realize their capacity to shape it. Okay, so here is one statement you can use as an example. You can support them by telling them, I can see how brave you are trying harder and harder things. Keep it going, okay? Although it will not always work out, but I can also see that you're getting stronger, smarter, braver, and that attitude and perseverance will get you closer to where you want to be next time. So, always make sure you validate and tell them how brave they are. Talk about their past experiences, on how they have handled something that was really hard and went through it. It's good to remind them of those things. Okay, so like I said, don't rush to their rescue. This is very, very important, parents and caregivers. Always remember, I know it's natural for us to be that rescuing parent in times of difficulty. Believe it or not, this will do them more harm than any good. But always remember that exposure to any kind of stress or challenges that they can manage during childhood will be the precursor, or will create a pathway of how they can handle stress in their adulthood. There is an evidence that these early experiences cause positive changes to the prefrontal cortex, the calm down part. You got this part of the brain that will protect them from the negative effects of future stress. Help your children remember there are ways that they have successfully handled, certain hardships, like what I explained earlier, in the past, how they've handled their hardships, and help them understand that these past challenges help them build that strength to where they are today, and how they can handle these future challenges. Help them to learn to trust themselves, to solve problems and make appropriate decisions. Okay, the next one would be labeling emotions. Okay, I feel this is very, very important, because resilience is about falling down and trying to get up again. Not all children are created equal. Sometimes these feelings of sadness, irritation, sorrow, joy, and so on can linger on for a while. Identifying and labeling these emotions help your child connect to how they feel, whether they're feeling nervous, excitement, any kind of feelings, and what they need to do to move forward. Okay, the key is for children to learn to understand and respect those feelings, even though they can be uncomfortable sometimes, but not to indulge and take control, not to take those emotions, not to take control of their lives. Okay, so they may be withdrawn from a lot of things at that time, but it is also important to support them through this period by doing reflection and processing those feelings. It is natural to catch them acting out sometimes, or unexpectedly, but always remember to validate those emotions. Okay, the next one would be nurture a growth mindset. Research shows that children who adopt a growth mindset have the ability to accept changes positively and more likely to show resilience when things get tough. An optimistic and positive outlook using a growth mindset can enable them to see past adversity, and those good things in life require changes that can promote growth. Okay, so the last one would be positive self-talk. Okay, remember, our children are always looking up to us or supportive figures for that validation. So your role is important to them. What you think matters to them. If you believe in them, they will believe in themselves. Okay, help them to remember how they have handled previous challenges in the past, and help them to see the strength of future challenges. This is an important part of problem solving skill. Your positive reinforcement is impactful because they serve as a foundation on which they build their own internal messaging, or shall I say their own self-talk, rather than trying to jump into intervening and solve their problem. You can build a blueprint for them to solve their problems on their own. Empowering your children to resolve problems on their own promotes independence, build critical thinking skills, help them with emotional regulation. Listen attentively as they talk. Their mind are processing a lot of information. Um, I can understand that it is hard not to solve their problems for them. Instead, try to be that soundboard to take them wherever they need to be. Guide them, but allow them to talk and come up with their own solutions. You would be that safe space for them to explore new ideas, experiment with solutions, and discovering their own potential. The first step will be to teach them to identify the problem, have them acknowledge how it makes them feel. Next, ask them how they would want the outcome to be and help them come up with few potential solutions. Finally, help them choose a solution which they come up on their which they have suggested or come up on their own, and let them put that in motion. Over time, using these steps to deal with the issues will become routine for your child and evolving as they learn what works best for them. Maybe I can guide you a little bit with some examples. Some questions you can actually ask them would be, what would this person, someone they see as a role model, someone they see as capable, what would they do in such situations? Just a thought invoking process. You can ask them, what would this person do if they are in your position? Or you can ask them, do you remember the time that you had faced with this challenge? What do you feel that has worked before? Brainstorm as many ideas they could use. Even the ridiculous one, you should always welcome that. Okay, so breaking down the big problem into smaller, achievable solutions or goals would be helpful for them. All right, so that brings us to the end of the webinar. I hope you find some of these strategies useful in helping your child build the muscles to respond and regulate again. So just to recap, disappointment that occurs with dysregulation is an opportunity to build emotional resilience. So self-regulation is really important part of resilient building. And I think of all those experiences, watching children successfully come out of those struggles is partly having a supportive and loving parent or caregivers who can help them, guide them to experience it by giving positive reinforcement and validation to support them through their challenges. And of course, that big hug and telling them that you love them will go a long way in building that emotional resilience. Having said that, always know that you as a parent and caregiver play a big role in that resilient building. As a parent and supportive figures, it is important for you to learn to be resilient yourself. Okay, children feel most loved and secure when those parent figures and protective figures are happy. They can also sense when they are struggling or directly affected by it. Showing them how you manage your stress will indirectly teach them to manage theirs. Remember, your children are always watching. Be an example to them. Seek help if necessary and strive every day to become a resilient parent. Lastly, before I end, if you notice your child seem unstuck or overwhelmed and unable to use any of the tips discussed today, you may want to consider talking to someone who can support you, such as a psychologist or mental health professionals such as myself, for guidance to help you strengthen your child resilient and persevere during the times of distress. Here are some of the information. If you have any questions or would like to book an appointment with us at Nuffield Counselling to help your child during these difficult times, please reach out to us. Okay, so that's the end of the webinar for today. And now it's time for question and answer. Okay, one of the questions I usually get would be, can resilience be changed? Yes, yes, and yes, absolutely. Resilience can be changed. Resilience is not for genetically blessed and can be strengthened at any age. One of the most exciting findings in the last years also, we can change the wiring of the brain through experiences and expose it um, to the right environment. The right experiences can shape the individual intrinsic characteristics of the child in a way that will build their resilience. Okay. The next question would be, do children need to experience adversity to build a resilience? Okay, adversity can be a good thing. Children can be motivated by experiencing a manageable level of struggle or challenges or stress. These can contribute to overall positive development. When children experience these adversities, it helps them to become resilient. The support children receive while experiencing these struggles and the extent to which the support meets their need and circumstances help them develop that emotional resilience. Depending on the nature and severity of the adversity, I would say some children will need access to additional support such as mental health professionals, family therapy, and so on. Okay, lastly would be, should we build resilience or prevent adversity? Okay, so while it's preferable in theory to prevent or remove or move them away from adversity that are detrimental to the child's development, is not always possible. Therefore, you should seek to build the child resilience while also addressing the source of the struggle, where it's coming from, handle the source itself. It is also generally easier to build resilience than preventing adversity, because adversity can happen at any point of time in our lives, and it's something that we can't avoid. Okay, so yeah, so that's all for the question and answers segment. Thank you everyone for joining me here. Till the next time, all of you have a wonderful, restful evening, and I will see you again in our next webinar.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Zahira. Have a good night.